All right, so we're gonna be doing a first look at the new test ships that are gonna be coming out in 14.9 for testing. So they're currently on the PTS, so us CCs are able to look at them in the ports and talk about them with no battle experience, as long as you look at stats. So all the ships I'm gonna be showing they're up to change for their stats. So all the stats we're gonna be showing is subject to change. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first ship we're gonna be looking at is going to be the Alki, which is gonna be totally SAT Score's favorite. Just look at it. It's literally a Yamato with a really flat butt. But yeah, so the Aki is currently in testing for on the Telva test server. So it has bombers and only 6 guns. So the bombers have 1550 HP each, which isn't a lot. And they're pontoon planes, so they're extremely slow. They have 5500 damage per bomb, and they have 2 bombs. With 41 millimeter pen for the bombs and 20% fire chance. So the bombs themselves seem really good, but the planes themselves seem really weak.
What's the reload?
How long 200 seconds. 200 seconds. So about 3 minutes.
So, ooh, that's quite a while, actually.
Yeah, it is. And the armor is exactly the same as the Yamato. It has a 50 millimeter and 57 millimeter deck, with the flight deck for the planes being 50. It has the exact same citadel weakness as the Yamato. HP pretty much identical to Yamato, 102,000 with 55% torpedo protection. The guns, they have slightly better dispersion than like the raw Yamato. Yamato with legendary is more accurate, but it does have a faster reload because there's only 6 guns. It does get 2 airstrikes for depth charges. Anti is going to be the same, terrible. Maneuverability is going to be terrible, same as Yamato. The equipment is just a heal and a DCP, and of course it has the airstrikes. It has the same DCP as the regular Japanese. The heal is going to be the same. It also has the same really bad turret diverse. So overall, it just feels like it's a Yamato that you're just going to be sitting bow wind at an island at the back of the map, just, you know, just chilling, watching planes shooting. It doesn't like, to me, it just feels like a long range. It's kind of like a John Bart where you just sit bow wind on the side and just reverse and you just shoot. That's what it kind of feels like.
Yeah, same here. And you're definitely encouraged to do that because you only have front guns. You have your Yamato, so you can fire at long range pretty well, and you have planes. So you're just there's no reason for you to get close.
Yeah.
That could lead to like a John Bardish playstyle where you basically sit in the back and just spam shells, and then use planes on occasion.
Yeah, exactly.
The planes will take long to reload initially, so you won't be getting much initial scouting. So with the predicted playstyle, I don't know if I would like the ship, just simply because if I see my teammate and he's in the Aki, he's just most likely going to be sitting in the back, shooting, not really using his hull to his advantage. Maybe using planes every now and then, but I feel like it's going to be the new 20-25 max range sniper Yamato meme, where you basically don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the Aki. So moving on from the Aki, let's talk about the Hawaii. This one, I think, is one of the best looking. It just looks so clean. And it also has has a helicopter pad on the back too, which looks really cool.
That being said, the bridge looks a little bit narrow, and then the little antenna in front of it looks kind of funny in terms of placement.
It's like, why is there a pole here? Oh, we just want it in front of the bridge, of course. And then there's 2 guns that are like opposite of each other, so they can shoot around the pole. You get 24 guns on this thing, 127 millimeter guns. The HE is a 9% fire chance, so 21 millimeter for the HE with 1800 damage. AP is 2400. 6-second reload. The hull of the ship is essentially an Alaskan hull, 27 millimeter bow and aft. Pretty armored side section here. So it's essentially a heavy cruiser with a heavy cruiser concealment with light cruiser guns. So really interesting play style. What really sets this ship apart are its consumables and its F key. So it does get a nice heal. It gets a Hydro DFAA, then it gets an 8.5 kilometer radar. But this F key is where it really makes it more of like a close range ship in some situations. So it makes the reload faster by 43.3%. So when it's active, the reload goes down to 3.4. And of course, this is without a build. When it's active, your fire chance is down by 4%. Your AP damage is down by 12.5. and it reduces your range by 31%. So it goes from 18.3 down to 12.5. What it also does is it makes your shells slower, as well as make your dispersions smaller. It makes it slightly smaller as well. So when it does this, essentially it makes it where your shells are more lofty to where you're able to shoot over terrain faster. But this also makes it where it's harder for you to hit targets further away. So essentially, if anything gets near you to where you're able to just absolutely start smashing with your guns, you'll do massive damage. Essentially, you're trying to kill whatever is trying to kill you before it do, just from pure gun DPM. Because you can use 9 of your turrets at a time on each side. Even though you do have to use a lot of your side, that's still 18 guns that are going off in a rapid succession. So that's a lot of DPM. The 8.5 kilometer radar just feels like, essentially, if this thing catches a destroyer, it's just going to be suffering. It is not going to be having fun. But again, it's a heavy cruiser. It's not very fast. Well, it's average for a heavy cruiser, and concealment is around the same as a heavy cruiser. So overall, it is going to be a very interesting ship whenever it goes through the testing process. But yeah, overall, I think out of all the test ships that are going right now, I think the Hawaii to me looks the best, besides what other one. I also like the look how the Surcouf is. But that's just what I think about this ship, the Hawaii. It's definitely going to be a very interesting ship whenever it comes out. And again, all these ships are going to be going into testing, public testing, on the main server in 14.9, so in October. So as of right now, all these ships are testing on the test server, not the closed server, the test server. Moving on from that, we'll be going on talking about the Surcouf, there's been a lot of debate here. There's been a lot of debate. There's been a lot of people yelling and screaming and kicking like, oh my God, they're adding a sub. And there's people that are like me where I just don't think it's going to be that big of a threat. So I'll let you guys all decide on your own, because we're just going to go over the stats. And I'm going to say my thoughts on how I think about the ship, and SAT will say his, and then we'll just move on, right? So the ship itself, it has 31,600 HP, right? It has a lot of HP for a submarine. It's also a very large submarine. So you take a look at it, this thing is pretty massive. It's almost as massive as, let's see, what ship is it? It is the I-56. Where are you at? It's
the tier 10 one.
Yeah, the tier 8 one. It looks about the same size as the I-56 or slightly bigger. It's a pretty massive submarine. It's not small in any way, shape, or form. So it's going to be definitely easy to hit if you do see it. It does have guns, which is the main thing. It has an 8-second reload with 203 millimeter guns, 2,900 damage for the HE, 17% fire chance with 34 millimeter pen, with 5,000 damage for the AP. And where the real gimmick comes in with the Surcouf is the fact that those guns get a reload booster, which is a 75% reload reduction, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So essentially, when you activate this reload booster, you can get 5 rounds in during that 10 seconds, and it has a 100-second cooldown. So you're able to put out a lot of DPM really quick. So one thing to note about these guns, they can only be turned and fired on the surface. And it's on this little place you can see here, and that can turn left or right. I don't know how far back it goes. We can assume it can go like maybe like a 30-degree angle or so off the east side. But overall, it's a pretty interesting gimmick with the reload booster. It's going to be really memey because if you position it right, you could, in theory, go broadside of a cruiser and just dev strike it in 10 seconds before it has a chance to do anything. But there are some things that Wargaming has made where it's going to be very difficult to do that. And I'll explain as I'm going down the list of what the ship's stats. So moving on from the guns, let's talk about the torpedoes. This has also been a very hot debate because of the rear torp angles, and I'll explain those in a minute. So this ship has no homing torpedoes, only dummy torpedoes, and they can only be launched at the surface or periscope depth. So that's the only places they can be launched because there's no homing torpedoes. They do 16,000 damage, have a 70-second reload. For the front guns, for the front loaders, there are 4 torpedoes with and they also load 4 at the time. So essentially you can launch all 4 and they'll all 4 will be reloading. At the rear, there is 3 torpedo launchers, and they only load 2 at a time. So you can launch all 3, and then only 2 will reload at a time. So what makes this different than any other sub is the fact that if you can see right here, this section right here and this section are turrets. They are torpedo turrets. So they turn left, right, wherever they turn. Now, when it's periscope, these will not turn. If it's at periscope below, these turrets do not turn at all. They will stay as they are. But at periscope depth, it can launch the rear one. While at the surface, all these can turn. So this one and this one can turn like really far to the right or the left. It can turn very, very far. And you guys will understand why once we go down the maneuverability on why that is. So that's like one of the main reasons people were worried, is because they're like, hey, why the hell is this sub able to launch the rear torps at such strong angles? And it's not because of, it's legit just because they're turrets. And that's the reason why. And you're going to see why on the way down. But as of right now, it sounds like it's a really dangerous thing, right? The fact that it can just do that, but you're going to understand why in a moment. The funniest thing about this ship by far, it's not even the guns. It's the fact that it gets aerial depth charges. That is the funniest thing. It gets 6-kilometer aerial depth charge with a 45-second reload. The reason why for that is because it doesn't have any way to counter a submarine underwater. So they wanted, hey, let's have a way to where it can actually counter a sub. So why not give it aerial depth charges? So this thing does get submarine surveillance at 6 kilometers. It does not get hydrophone, which is a very important tool for submarines to tell if there's any threats nearby or anything like that. It only gets submarine surveillance. So in theory, you can use the submarine surveillance to spot a sub, hit it with some depth charge planes, and then it will surface, and then you can just kill it with the guns. So essentially, this thing could be a really memey submarine hunter if given the chance to actually hunt one, which would be pretty hilarious to see. The thing also has engine boost. The engine boost can be used on the surface and underwater. It is a 20% boost that lasts 3 minutes. On the surface, it is 32 knot speed, and underwater is an 18 knot speed for reference for that. So if you have the engine boost active underwater, it's like 20 something knot, like 22 knots max is 23 knots max at 30 and 60. At the surface, 32 knots, 20%, it's like 38, 40, like around 40-ish. And then if you have the enlarged propeller going as well, when you're below half, you get around 44 knots-ish in total, but around 44 knots is how fast the thing will go. So that's not the fastest sub in the game. The K1 is right now the fastest, so definitely not the fastest. So here is where it starts to get interesting, on why I don't think this ship is really that much of a threat. It's going to be this section right here. So dive capacity 4 minutes, right? That's a lot of battery, but look at the submerged speed is 18 knots. Very slow. Tier 10. Every destroyer is going to be able to outrun this thing, run up to it, kill it very easily, right? But look at the turning radius right here real quick. Look at this. 610 meters. That turning radius is the worst turning radius out of any sub in the game. That is the biggest turning radius. And if anyone in here has seen an I-56, okay, I want you guys to understand this. I want you to compare this to an I-56. I-56 has a 590 meter turning radius and a faster rudder shift. And we all know damn well how slow that turns. This is worse. This thing is good. Like, just cruisers can outturn the Surcouf. That's how bad it is. And that's why the rear torps have that turret there. So it's on the surface. It can at least torp something while it's literally trying to hit anything. It's not going to be able to, essentially. So that's why. Also, the diving plane is pretty slow. Also, maximum dive and descent is 2.2 meters per second, which is also one of the slowest in the game for diving and surfacing, which means if you're caught out of position, it's going to take you so long to surface and dive, you're going to get killed in time. So at this point, everything like for that looks really bad. But then you have the concealment, which is like the biggest thing that everyone's concerned about. That 5.7 kilometer concealment really looks menacing. It really does. But everything put together, the bad turning maneuverability, the slow servicing and diving, no homing torpedoes. Overall, it just feels like this ship is going to be a really high skill level ship where a really good player is going to be a menace in this thing. And then a average player is just going to suffer in this ship, right? Now, overall, though, you can play this ship as just a torpedo boat with those 12-kilometer torps, because again, they're dummy torps, and you can reload the fronts every 70 seconds, and you reload the rear every 70 seconds, essentially. So you can play it as like a torpedo boat, or you can do more of a gunboat, either or. But overall, it's going to be a really interesting ship. And I know this is a ship that most people are concerned about that's currently in this testing. So I just wanted to go over it as much as I possibly could. SAT score really can't say too much on it. He can just look at the stats and say what he thinks of it, but I know that he doesn't think this thing is going to be as massive a threat as like a U-45, but I don't know. Like, how would you, like, going off of the stats, like, how much do you think it'd be like a threat compared to like, if you compared to like a U-45 in terms of like an annoyance? SAT.
So U-45, it plays pretty much like your standard sub. So it's fairly easy to understand how it plays. The homing torpedoes are homing torps, and it just dodges everything. That's why people absolutely hate playing against it. Surcouf, on the other hand, is completely different from anything else we've seen. So this will probably be at least top 10, if not the most unique playstyle in World of Warships when she hits live. That being said, it's kind of difficult to understand how she plays because we don't have any basis for like to use as a we don't have anything as a basis to use her for.
Yeah, exactly. We can only talk about the stats. We have no gameplay experience at all, so we're only going off of stats at the moment.
But given what Wargaming says how she's supposed to perform, she sounds like a pretty high risk, high reward. Because if she's supposed to use her guns more, that requires her to be on the surface, which is a problem since a submarine on the surface is gonna be liable to get shot at by everything. For example, a Colombo sees you on the surface, easiest death strike of his life.
Yeah, you're just instantly dead. No more Surcouf.
Oh yeah, you only have 31,600 HP, which is not much. You get heals again? Double check.
No heals.
Yeah, that's even worse. So if you surface, so think of it this way: if you surface to use your guns, I mean, sure, you'll do a lot of damage, but then it looks like you'll be left vulnerable. So people can still shoot at you. If you try to dive, it'll take forever, and since you have very low speed, people can probably easily hit you with those depth charges.
Yeah, exactly.
And assuming you survive all of that, you just don't have much HP to do it again. And that's if everything goes wrong. If everything goes right and no one shoots at you, then yeah, you'll be okay. But at tier 10, when there's some decent destroyer players running around, when cruisers with like the fastest turning turret in the world can just lock onto you instantly, and sometimes you have to fight ships that are extremely fast, yeah, I can imagine Surcouf having some pretty bad matchups here. Definitely going to expect some stat changes across the board. I don't think like a complete rework is necessary, but definitely they're going to have to fine-tune the stats as they gather more data. Of course, in the end, it's a submarine. She is still a submarine, so people are not going to like it. But we'll have to see how she turns out because it is definitely a very unique playstyle, and if Wargaming does it properly, I think she can actually turn to one of the most fun boats in WoWs.
Yep. Moving on from the Surcouf, let's talk about the Bremen. So the Bremen's on the list. So it literally looks like a super main, doesn't it? Essentially just looks like it just looks like a steroid version, right? It has 150 millimeter guns, 1700 HE for the damage, 8% fire, 38 millimeter pen, 960 cells, right? AP 3900 damage, right? This thing is just built to be an HE farmer, right? It has 51,000 HP. It essentially has for the concealment, it looks like essentially a heavy cruiser with a light cruiser guns. which is really interesting that we're getting two heavy cruisers with light cruiser guns in the testing period. We normally don't see like two of the same kind of ship, but it's pretty interesting to see two heavy cruisers essentially with like kind of similar like gimmicks of the light cruiser guns on them. So it's pretty interesting to see. Off of that as well, it does get 20 torpedoes. 10 on each side. They're pretty much as slow as the Black's torpedoes, 50 knots. So essentially these are torpedoes, even though they're 12 kilometers, you're launching them and you're forgetting about them. The enemy team isn't going to realize they're going to be there for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then all of a sudden they're just going to get dev struck by the torpedoes, which is always funny because everyone always forgets about the Black torps. Like, oh, there's no way you launched the torps, or he must have already torped. There's no way they're coming down. But as soon as they turn broadside, they get hit by them. Anti-air on this ship is actually kind of high for the Germans, but it's mostly inside the short range, so rip in that regard.
It's a lot of short range and mid range AA. I can't tell what the long range AA, but it's probably not that good.
Yeah, it's not. It's all in the mid range. That's what I'm looking at. Maneuverability.
That's still fine, though.
Yeah, it is. So the armor for the ship is 30 millimeter deck, 30 millimeter side, 25 bow and aft. Armor section is 40, 130 right there. It does have like the signature turtleback for the Germans, but at long distance, these cruisers do love to, those turtlebacks just love to just suck in that AP to the Citadel. So definitely be careful of that. For the concealment, it is definitely heavy cruiser concealment 16.2. So you're definitely be playing this long distance is what the ship is looking. Now, do we know is there any information about if these guns are 360 SAT? Is that public information at all, or on ship tools?
Nope. It's not hit ship tools yet, and
Okay.
so I cannot confirm if it's 360
Okay,
or not.
now you're good. Because yeah, I'm theorizing it is. Looking at them, I have a theory that the rear ones could potentially be, and maybe one of the fronts, but we'll have to find out. Because these gun angles look very poor. They look very poor gun angles wise. So to me, I feel like they could be 360s, but we'll have to see, right? So for the consumables, this ship gets a heel, a hydro or DFAA. Hydro is 6 kilometers. It gets a spotter plane or a fighter. So overall, it's going to be a pretty much long range shooter is what it looks like the Bremen is anyway. So pretty interesting design. Man, the Germans right now are feasting right now with all the new German ships that are coming in. Woo! They get the new German brawler line that's coming in. They get a super main, essentially. Oh, man, they're going to be super happy with all these ships that are coming in. I know.
They even got a Hildebrand.
Yeah, we don't talk about the Hildebrand. No, we don't talk about that one. We ignore that ship.
Remember, 2025 is the year of the German cruisers.
Yep, all of them are coming in. So the next ship is going to be, God, I'm going to butcher this name. Roussillon.
Roussillon?
Yeah, so tier 9 French battleship. 25 millimeter bow, 25 millimeter aft, 32 millimeter deck and upper deck and side plating. The ship has 69,000 HP. Funny number. So very low HP for a tier 9 battleship. A lot of torpedo protection though. It does have 9 406 millimeter guns. Secondaries on this thing, absolutely garbage. Look at that dispersion 43. Do not build into that. Nope. Airstrikes 10 kilometer range, anti-air, average French. Maneuverability 32 knots. Turning radius, not the best. Rudder shift 16.6 seconds. Ew. And concealment is actually the same as the Bremen. Nah, 16.2, not built. So about 13 something whenever you do build into it.
Yeah, 13. Yeah, 13 in the end.
Mm-hmm. The gun traverse is also 30 seconds. This ship just feels like, I can already tell it's going to be a sniper from how all the stats are looking. Heel.
What are the armor you said was 25, right?
About the bow and aft are 25. Yep, 25. It's like yeah. So normally, if you see a bow like that or aft for like any kind of ship like that, normally it just spells a sniper. So
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so it gets a 15% engine boost for 3 minutes. So that's really nice to boost its speed. It does get a really nice main reload booster for the guns, 67% for 20 seconds, and it has a 2-minute cooldown. And then it also gets a spotter plane and fighter. So this ship just feels like another sniper addition to the French. So the dispersion on it is 245, which isn't bad. You can build into that as well. So we'll have to see how it goes through its testing process and if it's changed or not. But so far, it's an interesting ship for sure. I think it looks pretty good.
So the Roussillon is basically another. It's basically another Alsace, kind of similar to the Alsace herself and Flandre. So yeah, Wargaming describes her as a excellent backsuit for a French battleship with good shell ballistics, so perfect for long-range engagements. Which makes sense considering her armor is terrible, and her gun. She has 16-inch guns, which is bigger than your typical French battleship. So yeah, most likely would be similar to Champagne, given they have very similar descriptions.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and then for certain engagements, you can just use your reload booster. That's a 67% instead of the standard 50. So you'll get your second shot off much faster. Pretty dang important. Oh, actually, hold on. What's the range on her?
23.4.
23.4. And what was the max range?
You mean like with spotter plane or in general? Because I don't have it built.
What's the range that's listed right there? I can do a quick calculation.
23.4 is the listed normal range without anything built.
And dispersion is 254, right?
Dispersion is 245.
245?
Yep.
It looks like on paper it used the same dispersion curve as Champagne.
Okay, that's pretty cool then. And Champagne's pretty accurate, so.
Oh yeah, it's most likely the same as Champagne. So
essentially a super Champagne.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It has one extra gun to the Champagne, and it has Wargaming describes her pretty similarly. The consumables are pretty similar. A lot of things are pretty similar. Champagne is essentially the sniper Richelieu, and then Roussillon is the sniper Alsace.
All right, so moving on from that, let's talk about the Narai, the
operation that everyone loved so much that they created a ship out of her.
Yep, it is the Tiger 59 clone with HE and worse AP. Ugh. I just hate Tiger 59. I don't have any bias toward this ship. I just hate the Tiger 59. So it's got
Didn't you praise her as one of the best ships in your videos?
That was an April Fool's video. That was all lies.
In other words, you love her.
No, lies. So it has a super heal, a smoke, a hydro, or DFAA, or a 30% emergency engine boost. So it goes from 30 knots to about 40 knots. So that's a pretty quick change. It does get aerial depth charges of 7 kilometers. That's really nice. Survivability is 33k. It only gets 4 guns that are very accurate, but you get both HE and AP, which is nice. Anti-air is okay. Concealment's pretty good for what it is. Yeah, hopefully it does better than the... It has a 2.9 second reload for the guns, so you can build them and make it faster. So we'll see how it goes through its testing process. But as a Tiger 59 clone, it has a lot to prove, essentially, once it's out.
So I don't get why Wargaming decided to make another Tiger 59. A lot of people really don't like the 59 just because her firepower is so bad. Like everything else about the ship on paper is fine. You've got that super heal, you've got smoke to protect you, your hull is not absolute garbage, and your guns are accurate. But the simple fact is you just don't have any firepower, and that's not fun to play. So I don't get why Wargaming
you know what they need to do?
Go with Narai.
Make the guns like a 1.8 second reload. Yep, there you go. Easy. Make it a Grotigan. Make it like a Grotigan but bigger, and bam, there you go.
At that point, you'd start breaking the game because you have a 6-inch gun that's firing one every second, which is quite ridiculous. Makes no sense.
Yeah, true.
So if I was Wargaming, I'd rather just take a Edinburgh as the basis for Narai instead of this, because Edinburgh throws more shells in at the same time. And it just feels stronger, even if the actual DPM's roughly the same.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. All right, so moving on from the Narai, we got 2 ships left. No, we got more. We got 3 more.
Lanzhou.
Yeah, we got the Lanzhou. This is legit a Molotov clone, correct? But tier 7.
I actually am not sure which of a clone it is. I wasn't paying that much attention to the dev blog because it's a tier 7.
Okay, it's essentially a heavy cruiser. It looks like a Russian clone. 180mm guns, 8.4 second reload. The gimmick of the ship itself.
Molotov.
Yeah, the gimmick itself is the fact that it has a high precision sniper, so it gets more accurate dispersion and a longer range from this. So essentially, I see this ship being an AP throwing tier 7 cruiser. So this thing could really do a lot of damage to cruisers that give it broadside or an angle with that AP, because Soviet AP is really, really strong. So if they transfer that over to this ship, oh man, it's going to be a wallop for sure. The torpedoes are 8 kilometer range with 5 on each side. And it does get aerial depth charges. And we're just feasting on aerial depth charges on all these cruisers. There hasn't been a single one without an aerial depth charge, which feels really nice.
Yeah, just surface cruisers with surface depth charges are just suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
The last one would be the Aguirre.
Okay, the Aguirre. Yes, so this is essentially looks like the Dutch tier 9 or tier 8. It looks like the Dutch tier 8 or tier 9 that's been just put into the Pan Americans. So it has the heavy cruiser armor, 25mm bow, 50mm bow armor with the 40mm deck and side deck with 25mm bow here. Maneuverability 32.5 knots, concealment 13.3, survivability 46,000. Oh, it's the Von spec. Okay, Von spec.
Either Von spec or the Harlem, but
Okay.
I guess no Harlem. They're kind of the same hull anyway. So
The HE
yes.
pen is 34mm of pen. So 34mm of pen for the HE with a 13% fire chance, 925 meters per second with a 4,800 damage for the AP. So the ship itself gimmick, it does get a heal and a hydro with a defensive AA. 5 kilometer hydro is pretty nice. And then it does get a combat instruction where pretty much it's fueled by potential damage and destroying a ship. So it gets an F key. So it gives a 70% reload if you take enough potential damage and ship destroyed. But I find that pretty rough because as a tier 8 cruiser, you're going to be kind of suffering. So I feel like they're going to have to adjust that F key amount a little bit to find that right balance. Because if you have to take out too much potential damage to get your F key active, you're just going to be dead by the time you get any real use out of it. So you have to be careful in that regard. It does get aerial depth charges. So keep going.
So it uses the Harlem hull, which is more durable than most other cruisers. It also gets a heal, which half of the tier 8 cruisers don't have. So it actually has the tools to potentially charge up that F key. And then worst comes to worst, just go kill steal some poor guy, and then you'll get your F key charged anyways. The main issue, of course, is that it has limited range, so you're gonna have to put yourself at quite a risk compared to many other cruisers. What's the reload on it?
The reload on the ship is 18.5 kilometers.
Reload times 18.
Sorry. 18.5. I'm sorry, not kilometers, seconds. 18.5 seconds.
That is god awful.
Yeah, that is really bad.
If you're not charging up your F key, then you literally don't have any DPM.
Nah,
that
you're
just
gonna be
does not feel
suffering.
great to play.
Yeah, that's gonna be god awful. Okay, so I did check, and I am able to talk about the Blyskawica 52. So we're gonna talk about that as the final ship. So
It's fine.
okay, so this ship is currently in testing as well on the test server currently. So it has 8 guns that are 100mm guns with a 4-second reload. The HE has 30mm of pen, which is a lot for a 100mm gun. Max damage is 1400 for the HE, AP is 1700. It does have pretty low HP, 16,200, which is pretty low for a tier 9. Torpedoes, it only gets 3 with a 10.5 kilometer range, and it has a 2-minute reload. Pretty long reload for those torps. They do have a lot of damage of 19,000, 66 knot speed. So from the stats, it's very sure that you're going to be using your guns most of the time. Depth charges, it gets 16 in one charge, is a lot. Anti-air, average. Maneuverability, 39 knot speed, pretty quick for a tier 9. 610 meteor turning radius is pretty good, and 4.5 ridership is pretty good as well for stats. Concealment is pretty high with 7.9, but the reason why this is because you look at the equipment, it has a heal, as well as having the Pan-European or the European radar. So it has a 10-second radar with a 60-second cooldown with a 9-kilometer range. So this thing pretty much feels like you're just going to be destroyer hunting or submarine hunting with this thing a lot. With the number of depth charges you get, because you get 16 per charge. So you can run RPF and try to hunt down destroyers and subs. And with its fast speed, it's going to be able to do that pretty well. It also has a 20% engine boost, which lasts for 3 minutes, which is a really long engine boost as well. So overall, all the stats are pointing for this thing to being more of a kind of like a destroyer and submarine deterrent, and just putting a lot of pressure on the flank. So it looks pretty promising, but again, all the stats we're talking about are subjective, so it could easily turn into something else at any time. So we'll have to see.
It also comes down to the gun ballistics. 100mm gun shells tend to be on the floatier end, and I haven't seen what the actual ballistics on it are. So if it's not good at longer ranges, then it's not going to perform well against the destroyers. 30mm is still pretty good against cruisers and battleships, but Blyskawica, with her, looks like her best concealment will be roughly 6.5, which is a bit on the high end. You're going to be relying on radar to detect other destroyers. And yes, you still use your guns to bully them out, but you're pretty much reliant on your radar to do that. You only get 3 charges base and 4 with the upgrade. So I think that's 1 less than the main line. And for all the faults that the Katsunis has, the ballistics are pretty solid. So it can reliably bully out other destroyers. I just don't know if Błyskawica is able to do the same.
We'll just have to see whenever it comes out. Also, with the 100mm guns, a lot of the time the AP on those are able to pin or arm on destroyers. So I'm really interested to see when this comes out if those AP are able to arm on destroyers, or if it just overpins. And we're not really going to be able to tell until it actually comes out, since we have no idea, and they haven't said anything about them being special or not.
I would say it's irrelevant, just because if you're shooting at destroyers, chances are they're already angled, and even if they aren't, good luck trying to hit it with the AP. So probably irrelevant unless you somehow get into his face. But that's a different problem.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, if you guys have any questions or concerns, let us know in the comments down below. But thank y'all for watching, and see you guys in the next video.